Correspondent. Joining me now is a Marine Corps combat veteran and the only member of Congress to have served in both Iraq wars, Congressman Mike Coffman of Colorado, a Republican who serves on the Armed Services Committee, joins me this morning. Congressman, thank you so much ahead of the speech by the President. You just heard us mention this poll out by the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and I just want to read you, Congressman, a couple of more stats from this because I find it really interesting. 2/3 of Americans, as I mentioned, want to confront Islamic State. 34%, which is still a minority, Congressman, but 34% are willing to commit to airstrikes and ground troops. Would you support that?
Well, I think that the fact that two Americans were brutally murdered by these terrorists, I think certainly has altered public opinion. But I wouldn't support the introduction of conventional ground troops into that region. I think we have a path to victory, a template for success. I think if we look at Afghanistan, we look at Iraq, what worked. In Afghanistan, what worked was our first phase over there, where we gave air and logistical support to the anti-Taliban forces, the Northern Alliance, and they pushed the Taliban out of the country. The maneuver elements on the ground were indigenous forces, not U.S. combat troops.
Right.
I think we can do the same in Iraq, and I think we've got to look at those tribal leaders and getting those Sunni Arab tribal leaders and getting them on board and supporting them directly, as right now is the case where they've aligned with the government and fighting over in the Haditha Dam area.
And that's exactly the mission, it seems, for the surprise visit of Secretary of State Kerry. Do you support that?
Well, I mean, I think we've got to see what the president says. I think the problem is that there were no residual forces at all that left after 2011, and I think that the government of Baghdad, the Shia-dominated government, reverted to their worst sectarian tendencies. What we've got to do, at the end of the day, there has to be a political solution. There's not a military solution alone for this, and the political solution is reaching out to these Sunni Arab insurgents who have joined with ISIS or ISIL,
right,
and bringing them back. That is not a natural coalition. As it wasn't when we were there, when I was there in 2005, 2006. You could see the fissures between the jihadists or the al-Qaeda element and the local Sunni Arab insurgents. Two very different agendas. They're temporarily aligned, but if we show them, or if they feel that they can be a part of the government of Iraq, this Shia-dominated government, then I think we've got some opportunities.
I mean, that is such a deep fissure, Congressman, and so much distrust between the two sides.
Sure.
Congressman, what do you hope expanded airstrikes is going to accomplish in the immediate term?
Right. Well, first of all, let me just say, with Maliki stepping down and a new government forming, that's a real opportunity.
Right.
But I don't see expanded airstrikes in and of themselves would have a very limited effect. What they have to be is a conjunction in the movement of ground forces, and those ground forces need to be indigenous, they need to be Iraqi, whether they're tribal forces or certainly with the Iraqi government. That's ultimately what is necessary for success.
Do you believe the president's going to be able to get his proposals through to Congress?
Well, I hope so, and I think he needs to bring it forward to the Congress of the United States. You know, I certainly view his initial actions without the Congress as justifiable on the basis that the murder of these two Americans is an attack upon the United States. Now, the administration may interpret that as a criminal justice issue. I consider that an act of war, and the president is certainly authorized to act accordingly. But I think this is going to be a prolonged mission, and he needs to bring it before the Congress of the United States.
All right, Republican Congressman Mike Coffman of Colorado, who serves on the Armed Services Committee, thank you so much for joining us this morning from the Hill. And